Hey there, you are tuning in to the Season 2 Grace and Frankie After Show on AfterBuzz TV. We're going to be breaking down all the goodness wrapped up in a tight little Netflix bow. So stay tuned or listen in because this is about to be fun.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yeah. Are we starting
This
now?
is such a feel-good song. It really
I know.
is.
Makes me want to dance.
And the perfect song for the show. Like, it's the best theme they could have picked.
For sure.
Because it's mature, but it has the joy of a child in it, you know?
Absolutely. That's what we all look for. Maturity with the joy of a child. And with that, we start our Season 2 after show for Grace and Frankie. A very joyous show, mature, yet childlike. My name is Lauren. I am your host for this evening. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lauren Lograsso. And I've got an incredibly beautiful panel with me today.
Oh, shucks.
Would y'all care to introduce yourself to the people?
I'm starting. Hi, I'm Joelle Monique, and you can find me everywhere at Joelle Monique. Keep it simple for you.
Hey everyone, also simple. My name is Dani Golub, and you can find me everywhere at Dani Golub.
What up? This is Zach Kelch. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zach Kelch. Ta-da.
Guys, we make it really simple.
Yeah.
You know what? It's
Nothing
good.
fancy.
Keep it simple. Keep it straightforward. And I was really happy because this show did that too. They started out by recapping what happened for us, but it was in a way you wouldn't have realized it until the second time I watched it through.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it was just their typical thing of let's bring them off the beach, recounting what just happened to them in the most natural way between the two of them. Because I feel like their rapport is very much talking things out.
Right.
I feel like that has to happen with Netflix too, because there is such a long period between shows. We were talking before this that we actually had to like rewatch some of the first season to remember, but I like that they did this because you do have that year-long gap. It's not like regular TV where you watch and then the next season comes on a couple months later. You kind of need that little recap to be able to catch up to remember where they left off.
Yeah, it's a smart thing to do because right away you're in it. You're like, oh yeah, she slept with Saul.
Right.
Oh, she broke up with her boyfriend. Now we're in. We're on the beach walk with them, basically.
I love that
Beauty on the
beach.
beach.
I love that
Which
beach.
one?
That
Yeah.
beach is just like their spot.
We need to go to this beach because I think
know.
they're always there getting into something, and I would
Love
love
it.
to join.
So many memories, you know.
Right.
So they're talking, Frankie's saying like, you know what, I want to not break up because obviously they're already broken up, but I want to detach from Saul. I really want to go on this journey of life on my own. And then what happens? She gets a little phone call saying, don't enable him. That's a
Right.
ringtone. I
Right.
love
That
that.
was
I love
great.
that. Empowerment.
Empowerment, yeah. But Grace answers and tells, you know, Saul, hey, listen, she doesn't want to talk to you. But we find out, dun 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 dun, that's really not appropriate music for this.
Dun, dun, dun.
In a fictional
It's
sense,
more
I
one
think
of
it's
those
okay.
dun dun dun.
Yeah, thank you.
There-
Thank
you-
you for taking me
you
to
put
appropriate.
Thanks, boo.
You put the emphasis on the wrong, like, musical syllable.
Yeah, it's not a magic trick. It is.
It's a heart attack. So, oh
Quite
yeah, by
serious.
the way, speaking of heart attacks, I don't know why this brought it up for me, but happy Mother's Day to any mothers listening or watching.
Help. Happy Mother's Day, Grace and Frankie.
Yeah, you know, they're
Heart
both
attacks.
mothers.
They're both
They
mothers.
are.
Mhm. So anyway, the two mothers go down to the hospital, check out what's happening, and obviously Saul is there. They talk about the situation
Right.
because it's muy complicado, right?
Yeah.
And I think this was such a interesting way to amp up the tension of what happened in the end of the last season because I felt like they couldn't just return to normal after this, after Saul and Frankie sleeping together.
Yeah, it's not just like hooking up with your ex. This is like on a whole new level.
Right. I
Right.
love it when
With an impending wedding, like
yeah.
all this
Right.
stuff.
Well, and I'm glad she called him out on like, is this the part that's embarrassing to you? Like,
right. I read
is
that.
this
That was a
the
great
issue?
scene.
Like, this is our home. We raised our kids here. We have 40 years of marriage. Like, man up.
That
Right.
line was like one of my favorite lines of the episode. She's like, the 20-year affair wasn't your mistake. Like,
No.
if that wasn't like the woman you spent 40 years with, if I'm the mistake, like that's screwed up.
this is her exact line, and I wrote it down too.
Yeah.
This was the fuck up, not your 20-year affair. This was the fuck up. That's fucked up.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It was good.
It's
I
very
was-
true.
I feel like I was happy to see Frankie kind of stand up for herself because I feel like she's been so emotionally attached to Saul that she hasn't been able to kind of stand up for herself and
Right.
hold her own in this situation. And she is a really empowered woman, but when it comes to him, she's really vulnerable. And this
Right.
was the first time I feel like we've seen her kind of hold her own and be like, you know what? If that's a mistake, then you're my mistake. You know what I mean? Like she kind of was like, it's one of those like shame on me kind of things, kind of moments, and I was happy to see her kind of take some
I feel like
ownership.
it seems very evident in that now this is kind of going to be the precedent moving forward,
Yeah.
that this is now Frankie taking much more stake in herself and really trying to figure that out and how they keep moving, because she really is such a free spirit and feels so much so often that the first season was her really still just a mess the entire time. And I think it really...
Yeah, and she was trying to be supportive, you know,
Right.
and I think that was an interesting theme that played through both of these episodes. By the way, we're recapping the first 2 episodes, so, but in the first one and the second one, they're talking about how they haven't felt like they've been allowed to be mad because
Right.
they were gay, and you wanted to be supportive of that because they're finally being themselves, but at the same time, they were still cheated on and left, so
There was
it's
a line
difficult.
in the first one where they talk about
Yeah.
that. She was like, if this was a woman you had been cheating with for the last 20 years, we would have a really different attitude about this whole situation, but like they had to kind of open their hearts to this new life that their husbands were, you know,
Embarking upon.
Yeah,
or even,
exactly.
or even the kids. That was the thing when they had
Yeah.
the dinner party, and he was like, then we're not going to eat cake. And so he picked up the cake and left the
Right.
table, because the kids, I think, are...
And this was in last year's.
Yeah, and the kids, I think, with this are still very confused, and I think that this episode, them coming back into it and having the heart attack, it's just everyone's emotions are so amped up, and it's really interesting, kind of taking an extreme example of navigating breaking up with an ex and figuring out how close you can still stay with them. Like, this is the most extreme of that, but it's also a very universal thing.
And I like that they're kind of picking up with them becoming more like a weird new age family unit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the kids are like, they grew up together, so they already have this kind of like sibling atmosphere about their relationship, but they're definitely taking it to a next level, and maybe weird because it feels like 2 of them might sleep together soon.
I feel like they maybe already have.
Brie
but
and Coyote?
We'll save that for predictions.
I think it's nice though to see like there's no normal family anymore, you know, and I feel like for so long so many people didn't see themselves represented on TV.
Right.
And this is just showing you that the new normal, it couldn't be literally anything. It could be 2 60, 70-year-old men realizing that they should be together like at the end of the later chapters of their life, you know?
Right. And I think that a lot of people, especially in this country, felt like they had to pretend to be normal for a long time because
Right.
that's what they were seeing
Right.
replicated for them on television. And even these 2 families to an extent, you know, there was some really screwed up stuff that was happening, but on the outside, everything looked awesome.
Especially with Grace
Yeah.
and Robert, I feel like. They kind of put that front up. And in this episode, I know we'll touch on it later because it was more in 2, but she realized going back into that house that, like, it wasn't a happy space. It wasn't what it should be. And I think she realizes it now that it is a happy space for a happy couple. Like, it didn't look like that when she and Robert lived there.
Yeah.
The part broke my heart.
Yeah,
like,
it was really
40
sad.
years of being like, we didn't, in 40 years we couldn't capture what these guys captured in
Right.
a couple months of living together.
Yeah.
I feel for these ladies so deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a very complex situation, as we find
For
out.
sure.
So the kids are also finding that out, right? Because they're all sitting in the hotel the hospital waiting room. I was gonna say the hotel waiting room, not quite a hotel.
Not as luxurious.
And not as luxurious. And
More
they're
free
talking.
food.
Is there?
I mean, if you're checked in and
Oh yeah. If you're a patient, you don't
Yeah.
get that free food if you're just a guest.
Well,
though. I've tried.
right.
So they're all sitting in the waiting room, and they walk in. They realize something weird is happening, and basically Frankie spills the beans. What did she even say? Did she say me and your father had intercourse?
Yeah,
or-
but they were like heterosexual intercourse.
Yeah, I love that.
Which I love.
I did think about it. I was like, well, maybe they did, get it in the back door.
And
Just
I-
to be completely
Oh.
blunt. But you never
Mom's
know.
into pegging. All right.
You know, I love Saul and Frankie so much for the fact, like, they're this weird free spirit couple where it's like they genuinely cannot keep something in, and it's the most
Oh, yeah.
endearing thing about them.
Him
that
too. He literally looked like he was gonna like explode.
Yeah.
Right.
It looked
and I
unhealthy.
mean, in no world do any of these kids want to hear, like, had they been given the choice to not hear the secret, knowing what it was, they'd be like, no.
I think any
no.
kids wouldn't want to hear
Right.
that about their parents, and it's almost weirder because they're not together anymore, and so it's like,
yeah.
how do you even process
And
that?
now it's almost a double-edged sword of like, well, now did they just cheat again? Like, it's
Yeah, they
So
did,
confusing.
technically.
Yeah, they did.
I wanted the kids to make the joke, oh my God, are mommy and daddy getting back together?
That would be
I was really
Yeah.
expecting it with their like heavy dose of sarcasm. I was surprised they didn't take it in that direction.
All right, next time, guys. You can
You'll
just
get it.
consult with us first, and we'll tell you what to write.
Toss them a tip.
Yeah, but that was really interesting. And then I love that Saul was still like, maybe I should still tell him. Because it does get to a point where, you know, in people's relationships in general, is it selfish to confess when you have had one act of cheating with someone else? Is it selfish to confess that to someone else if you don't intend to do it again? I've heard psychologists say, you know, like radio psychologists, like, don't tell the person because that is actually selfish because you just want to get it off your chest.
And I think it's definitely true with Saul. Like, he has to be honest and open. Right. Like, that's his natural state. I watched it with my roommate. We were both kind of sitting there debating, and my roommate was mad. She's like, Saul would never do this. Of course he would spill the beans immediately. But he kept a 20-year affair secret, so... I mean, clearly he doesn't have that big of a problem with secrets.
That's my thing about it, is their relationship is based on cheating, so it sucks. I think mine is just given the circumstances. Absolutely, I feel like he should tell him because of how the relationship started in the first place, but because of the being sick in a hospital bed, that's what makes it difficult for me, not the dilemma of... do you even tell about cheating because of the repercussions from that?
I think you should tell eventually, but when a person's sick like that, there's something called timing, and you don't want to make them have a second heart attack.
Yeah, I think they even said that.
Begging you to marry him. Yeah. When he's like, please, I just want to be married to you at least at one point if I don't get out of this. I think at that point, it would have been the most selfish act for him to be like, so last night, I made some decisions. Like, this is not, I think the right decision was made. I wonder how long he can hold on to that.
But then it's funny.
I'm having anxiety over it.
It's funny because he was in a moment of very selfishness, but then Grace and Frankie, that was the most selfless thing that they could do. Them really rallying behind them to get this wedding to happen.
Frankie performing
the wedding.
Wait, you guys, before we get to that, and we're talking about weddings, I want to talk a little bit about bachelors.
Okay.
And bachelorettes, actually.
Love that show.
Because these shows aren't for free. We do bring you free content, but it costs money to keep the lights on and to keep the air conditioning pumping in sunny California. So we have a really lovely sponsor, and that is The Bachelorette.
And
get it.
Yeah, it's so exciting. This is an incredible show. A great way to supplement your Grace and Frankie watching, I would say.
The line is on the way. I'm just waiting.
It will be here soon. But on The Bachelor, Ben told JoJo he loved her, but her fairy tale ending crashed straight to the ground when he said he loves someone else more and sent her away with a broken heart. It was the most dramatic Bachelor finale ever.
Poor JoJo.
Been there, done that.
Get it, girl.
ABC, Monday, May 23rd. JoJo is back as a new Bachelorette. The stunning fan favorite from Texas is leaving her heartbreak behind and going from Ben to 26 new men. Nice little rhyme scheme there.
Ooh.
All hoping to be the one to make her happily ever after finally come true. Now, are the guys here for the right reasons?
Never.
Will they make a connection? And will JoJo finally get the happy ending she's always wanted? The surprises start night one as the guys grab her attention right out of the limo to get that coveted first impression rose.
Look at that.
A new epic journey of romance, man tears, and drama is about to begin. The Bachelorette premieres at a special time, Monday, May 23rd, 9/8 Central on ABC.
You really sold that.
That was great.
I've never watched The Bachelorette. Now I might have to.
I think Chris Harrison better watch his back.
For real.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. Coming for you.
Oh my God! If you put Lauren next to like JoJo, it would just turn into a not today, boo.
Lolo and JoJo. That's right.
But thinking about this
pair.
is such a corny transition, but truly, this is what Frankie needs. Frankie needs her own version of The Bachelorette.
God.
She just needs new men.
That's
in
a
her life.
brilliant plot point. I'm not even kidding.
Right?
Grace and Frankie as like co-bachelorettes.
Yes.
They need to do like a
But they
speed
both
dating
get to
episode
stay.
or something.
I didn't like
Yeah,
that
I can agree with
Bachelorette
that.
where they made the one go
I know,
away.
that
I felt
really-
really sad.
Me too.
That was yeah.
Yeah, but it was brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
brilliant to
Great
make the two
TV.
women fight for it. But
But-
man, as a feminist, it made me a little sad.
You can have it
Don't
too,
tell.
girl.
Understood.
Yeah, but it was great TV. Anyway, so we're gonna get the two of them a slot on The Bachelorette, and they can both stay on for the full
You know
season.
what? I've been
Yeah.
waiting for someone maybe that didn't look like they were like 19 and had a hot bod and were like, you know what I mean? Let's
need
get
a little
some older
Fonda
ones.
action.
Can definitely
I
get
mean,
a man.
could you
we need like
imagine the one-liners from Frankie like sitting here with all these men? It would just
Yeah.
be gold.
Can you imagine the yam lube? Come on.
That'd be probably an official sponsor.
It should be. But back to this wedding. Okay, so they're trying to get someone to officiate the wedding. I loved the Catholic Church. She's like, come
Right.
on, even with that new Pope. You can't do
Yeah.
it. He's supposed to be cool.
He's shaking shit up.
That was so funny. The rabbi too.
Jesus Christ.
I like how it was funny that the rabbi like wouldn't do. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally fine with a gay marriage, but I can't do an interfaith marriage."
Yeah.
I know.
It's like I feel like people just run into so much crap with this kind of stuff these days. Like I'm ready to live in a place where you could just marry whoever you want, whenever you want. Like what is?
And that's supposed to be what's happening
know.
now. I don't
Right.
get
But
what
like
the deal
for some
is.
reason they still can't. They
Right.
have
I think you probably have a very restricted pool to pull from in a
Yeah.
hospial who
True.
can officiate these
I was
weddings.
kind of
so
upset
who
they
knows?
didn't go looking for judges. Like, just
Right.
not, like, judge in here? Maybe?
Right.
No? Next? But the bringing Frankie to do it and then having her do it in that way where she was clearly not pleased about it.
Right.
I thought that she would maybe go softer. I was glad that she stayed hard and was like, all right, I'm doing it. I'm here.
I mean, I think that really endearing moment in the speech during it when she said, I forget what the direct quote was, but basically she says...
And as infuriating as this is, it's strangely beautiful.
Yeah, that.
Infuriating, yeah.
That one.
Yeah, I thought it was great because it was still a very Frankie ceremony. She's like, well, if I'm gonna have to do this, and
You're
it's
gonna hum?
yeah, I'm gonna hum.
You're
We're
gonna
gonna sway. I'm gonna sage the place up as much as I can without the oxygen machine stopping. And I love that she made it her own because it is a terrible thing to have to do if you really
Right.
break it down. Like this person that you were
remarrying your
in love with.
ex-husband.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to be such an evolved human being in order to do that. So I was happy that she at least took time to honor herself and make the
Yeah.
ceremony her own.
I know he's sick right now, but I really want there to be a moment where Robert kind of thanks Frankie
Yes.
because the first season he was battling with her a little bit in the attention
Yeah.
of Saul, but I mean he has asked a lot of this woman and she has graciously done it as much
Yeah.
as she runs away furious, but she really has been a team player for them.
And even Grace, like, pushing her to be the one to do it, you
Right.
know? Like, all of that, I mean, is really brave stuff. And just
Yeah.
the kids to be standing there. And, you know, I think that, like, as much as this is a comedy, I guess, like, there is some really serious stuff they touch
Yeah.
on in this show. And it's
sure.
nice to kind of see that. I mean, like, in a serious moment like this, they also kind of, like, make a joke and say, like, and the random witnesses, you know, like the
Yeah.
random people
Right.
that were sitting there. But at the same time, like, it was a really serious moment. So, I don't know, it was, like, beautiful in a strange way.
Yeah, I thought that they did it really nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, this is our theme where Grace and Frankie are always just left there alone reflecting
Right.
on what's happened. So they're left alone with each other. And she says she was able to marry them because she channeled Grace. What was her quote? It was like,
Yeah,
I
but-
just pushed my feelings
Feelings
down and
down.
built a wall of stone around them.
But see, and that's why I love this show because there's such a genuine authenticity about these two characters and their friendship. Like it really, like I don't see them as characters. I think they're friends in real life.
They
no?
sure are.
Yeah.
Oh, they sure are.
Right. And
I
it's
love
just,
them.
and I
Me
feel like
too.
it's, I feel
I
like
love
it's
them
very
too.
obvious because I never sit there thinking about, oh, I'm watching television right now because their conversations really seem like they're coming from a real place.
I feel like so many shows are centered around like a boy chasing after a girl or a girl chasing after a boy, and like
True.
in this show I really care about nothing other than their friendship, which is
Nothing.
Yeah.
which is a
Isn't that
really cool
amazing?
thing because like I mean I know that Robert and Saul are kind of a main focus of the show in a sense and their love and marriage and whatnot, but that's really on the back burner for me. This show is like about a beautiful friendship between two really different but equally empowered women, you know? And so I think that that's like a really cool thing just to have out there in the universe. And the show is kind of like a piece of artwork. It's like a really well-written, well-executed show across
Right.
the board.
And especially to show not only just women that are older, but the effects of friendship after tragedy, after your whole life has just been
Right.
kind of disseminated. They are there for you, even when they don't want to be. They're like, God, but I'm here for you. Like, we're gonna make it work. And that's so rare, especially between women, especially on screen, especially to have that be the main focus. And then if you're a family, like I'm really into my family, like the whole idea of like the kids trying to be involved, and then you've
Right.
got like this grandmotherly aspect, and then you've got the friendship aspect. Like it hits me every time. It hits me on a different level.
Right.
With siblings.
It's just like I feel like we
That's
so
right.
often like see women pinned against each other,
Yes.
you know? So it's
Right.
nice to see
It becomes
two.
the norm almost. And
Yeah.
so this is refreshing. And like you said, it's a great thing that is being put out into the universe and to media in general, that it's focusing on their friendship
Right.
and now even on them finding themselves as human beings,
Right.
not how they find themselves in their partner.
Right, and it's
Right.
cool to be able to find yourself as a human being at any chapter in your life. I feel like anytime someone goes through something tragic, whether that be a breakup or a loss of some sort, you feel like it's the end of the world. But like, look at these two human beings that just went through 40 years of life. They thought they were like at the end of the road with this person, and all of that just gets torn down, and they found something new and beautiful out of something tragic.
Right.
And I think that's a really cool tone that's already been set for this season versus the last one, where now I think the official semi-rivalry that was originally with them is gone. And I think they're really there for each other now. And it makes me really excited for this season, because I think it's going to be more of them working together and having some fun adventures, like the Say Yes night and things like that are going to...
Yeah, that was fun.
Right.
Say yes to the dress.
I wouldn't know.
We forgot one... In due time, Zach. We forgot one thing, and that's pregs.
Oh my goodness.
Little
Yes.
Miss Mal is preggo with twins.
With twins.
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh, like...
Do you think she meant to do that?
No.
We were talking before. We thought it was kind of. I mean, like the jabs that they were taking at her were really funny.
Brianna's like
amazing.
2 moments of
love
throwing
her.
in like a chubby joke were actually like
I
was
was
just the
on the floor.
funniest
Because Brooklyn
thing.
Decker is like a twig, and so it was just funny to like have them make those kind of
Right,
jokes.
and she was just like, and when they leave the hospital room, and she's like, "Don't worry, we'll take breaks so you don't get winded." I was just like,
I love when she goes, wait, did my mother just call my sister fat? Aside from my dad almost dying, this is the best day of my life.
Yeah, the woman who plays June Diane Raphael, the
Yes.
girl who plays Brianna, like we
Is-
love her. I can't
kills
get
it.
enough of her.
So brilliant.
She's so funny.
Yeah.
Her timing is impeccable.
I feel like this is like one of her first bigger roles. I've seen her in like smaller things. I know she
Yeah.
was in Parks and Rec as like a guest in 1 or 2 episodes, but this is like the first time I've really seen her as an actress in the forefront of a show.
and it's like I already
she's
want a
epic.
spin-off.
She's
I
a
like want her own
superstar.
show.
Yeah.
She's amazing. Like the whole storyline with getting the dog last season.
Oh
was
my God,
and
she's
making him
so cute.
spit.
I know, I kind
I
of
love
felt
her.
bad for his name. But she's amazing. She
is.
really is. All right, so we ready to move on to the next episode?
Would
do you
love
feel,
to.
Do you feel
So,
good? Do
yeah.
you feel
Yeah.
solid?
Yeah.
The Vitamix.
Yes.
So we started this episode. Everyone's waiting around the hospital, sleeping on each other, and we find out Robert's alive.
All good.
All
Made
good
it.
in the
All
hood.
good in the hood.
The hospital hood.
You know what was really funny to me? That very quickly, now that he was all good, and the kind of the scare that sets in around Saul having to now pay for the surgery. It sets
Yeah.
in that
That was so real.
That
It's a
he
very
had-
real issue.
Yeah.
that his insurance is denied, and he
Yeah.
owes, which they reveal later in the episode, that it's $35,000 for this surgery.
Hospital bills are insane. My dad got like a shoulder surgery, and if without insurance, it would have cost like upwards of $100,000 for the. And he didn't even stay overnight.
That can
in the
ruin
hospital.
someone's life.
Ruin someone's life, and so I think that like again with the show being funny and having its comedic moments,
Right.
it also touches on some serious stuff that like everyone can relate to.
And
Yeah.
thematically, I'm glad they got a chance to flex their lawyer muscle.
Yeah.
Right.
He was like, "This is cute. I'll be back." He was like a whole plan of like, "I will destroy this hospital. You will not send my husband back here."
But it also is just another level of heartbreak that it was, okay, he's good, but now let's throw this in, and now everyone is in shambles to cancel the wedding because they can't afford it, and the wedding already happened, and all this stuff. And so everyone kind of gets dispersed into these different roles, which
Yeah.
I thought the way the roles got divvied up were hilarious. The fact that Coyote was put to sit there with
Them
him
two
was
together
like,
were
That was the best part of the
That
episode
whole
for me.
confession
But,
was
yeah.
Robert on morphine talking to Coyote, who was sober, and he was like, "I see why you like these drugs," or something. He's like, "Why did you do this?" They just had all these amazing deep
Yeah.
moments.
Did you read the play I gave you?
He's like, you gave me a play. And poor Coyote is just like,
It was like
so...
this. Did you remember this? Like he
He-
was conducting for. Sorry, for people who are audio based, I'm doing the hand movement he did after he said. Did
It's
you read
kind
my
of like the
play?
red dress emoji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Like a little...
But then he moves the hand down. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
That whole the series of scenes with those two were just amazing.
And the
So-
competition with the rest of the kids in trying to like
Cancel.
cancel everything and having like, I bet I can get through more calls than you. Like, I think the callbacks to what their childhood must have been like are really well done. Like they're
Right.
well
Yeah.
written
Right.
throughout the series.
and just establishing the characters even more, we're like, oh yeah, that's who that person is. We got into the roles
Right.
without it being obvious
Yeah.
because it was
Yeah.
done through plot.
I feel like because last season it was like really focused on Grace, Frankie, Saul, Robert, and this season we're already seeing more of the of the kids, and I feel like we got a little bit of taste of them each last
Right.
season, but this is I feel like going to be even more centered around them because as we were talking about before, like the actual initial shock of the breakup and the wedding is kind of over. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's kind of like where I saw the show ending last season. I was a little bit worried on how this was going to pick up again and how are they going to continue to evolve and keep me interested. And I feel like involving the kids more is going to keep me like on my toes.
Well, I feel like now, because it's kind of past the reshuffling of romantic relationships, I feel like this season probably will have more of a family building theme as opposed to romance and love. I think it's going to be them figuring out what we already said this, what the new normal is for all of them.
And who they are. That's, by the end of this episode, I think that's what we realize their journey is.
But who the kids are is freaking hilarious, because Brianna and Mallory, the jabs that they threw at each other, and it's just like Brianna's just so much loving of her essentially like hating personality is one of my favorite things.
She's just cynical.
Like, I forget what the one phone call that they actually heard from her say, but like it was just like, wedding's not happening, okay, bye, and they like literally just hung up. And
it's more efficient. You gotta give her that. I don't know, but I like that the sister, because I always think this way: you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're polar opposites, and it's always funny to see two people like that interact with each other.
And I like that Bud was having such a hard time just getting through one phone call. And he was like, no. She's lonely.
She grabs it from him.
Get your racist shit under control. Oh my gosh.
It reminds me of when I was a telemarketer and I'd end up having these long, epic conversations with them, and then they wouldn't give any money.
Nope. They would stop me halfway through their like storytelling and be like, I'm not giving money, right? And you're like, no, but how is your grandmother?
Tell me about the 30s, Rosalie. I remember that one real call. So that was a great, funny moment. So they're going through the cancellation. And we, in the meantime, have Grace and Frankie going back to the house to collect some toiletries and clothing.
Not to Frankie's liking. Grace full-blown dragged her there.
Yeah, full-blown. And Grace, was it in this episode or the one before? I guess we did miss touching upon this. She's saying she doesn't want Robert to die because she wants to have an opportunity to be mad at him.
And yet she also had said in the previous season that it would have been easier if he had died. And
there was a callback to that.
There was to that, and she also like brought it back up with him. Like, I didn't actually mean that, because I know like in heated moments you can say a lot of things that you don't mean.
And it's so awful because you can never take it back. Like you can apologize and you can forgive, but you can never forget.
But what even made it more heartbreaking was she didn't even say. She just said like, I didn't mean that, and he knew immediately what she was talking about, because that's a stinger.
Yeah.
Partnership.
But they're back getting their stuff, and it just turns into this like really real moment of kind of entering, especially for Grace, entering a house that she lived in for decades and seeing it just slightly rearranged, couple different pillows, an ottoman, and it just sets this whole wheel in motion in her head of the difference between Saul and Robert and Grace as couples.
Yeah, this is what we touched on before about like, she's like, this ottoman wasn't there and this wasn't there and this is gross and why is this blanket here? But realistically, like, that stuff is all there because they share this space together now. It's not two individual human beings living in a house together. It's partners living in a house together.
It's not a house, it's a home.
Exactly.
A chair is still a chair. No, that's no.
Yes.
Of course.
Sounded like Beauty and the Beast. I love also that Frankie's trying to steal these corn husks and pepper shakers.
But that's so Frankie. That's so Frankie.
Really, I mean, she could have like gone for anything, and it was. She just fell in love with the dumbest little salt shakers.
What were those other things? Napkin holders?
Silver napkins.
Okay.
She wants like
the
the
plainest, most ordinary thing.
It's so sweet. Oh, we also missed the fact that the great Rita Moreno was there as Lucy. And
the nosy neighbor.
The nosy neighbor. Everybody's got one. And she just came in. I hope more to come from her because she's such a legend.
Right.
And I think that character has a lot of room to grow and create trouble.
Yeah, especially based off Grace's reaction to her initially coming in. It was just like, no! Like,
she was literally like
saucer eyes.
Physically trying to get her out the door.
She was like, immediately, she was like, not in here. Get out.
I love... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think we will see more of her.
I love when she asked Frankie, too, if she'd ever met Saul. She's like, no.
No.
She's
such a great guy.
He's got the heart of a Buddha.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
So, yeah, she tries to steal those, and Grace pats her down and takes away the corn husk salt.
Rather briskly.
But, I mean, and it's such a silly moment, but it was really real in the way that she's saying, like, I deserve some sort of compensation for what I've done and put through.
Absolutely right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would ask for something a little bit better than some corn husk shakers.
We'll get there.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Whatever gets you through the day, you know?
And then she lands up in one of those, we were talking about this, like one of those things that you like...
Reel on your back with,
You reel on your back and you are... I've been stuck stuck in one of those so many times,
Right.
so I
It's a
totally empathize
real
with her.
fear, yeah, I have too.
I had a friend who
They're not
had one of
easy.
those when we were kids, and we would like lock our ankles in and go upside down, and it was like all for fun. But then you get like a crazy blood rush to your head, and if you get stuck, it's really scary because if someone leaves the room and then you're in there by yourself. So I had a real moment with Frankie when she was stuck upside down on that thing because it is so scary.
Right.
Did you at any moment think Grace could hear her? Because
Yeah, oh, yeah,
when she
yeah.
comes out at the end,
Sure.
she was like, I thought you had left. She's like, no, I was just waiting for you. Grace.
Yeah.
Classic Grace.
She wanted her to learn her lesson, though.
Yeah.
But
Right.
okay, here's the thing, and this is when we gotta get to the production team. Is there really any way she could have reached that box of Ritz
Thank you.
crackers
Right, if
from
she
the
couldn't,
table?
if she couldn't get up, like, how did she MacGyver like
was
5
she-
feet over?
Yeah, there's no way. So anyway,
Knowing Frankie, she's really flexible because she probably
Totally.
does a lot of yoga. That's what they
I mean,
tell
but
you.
how could you reach?
all those sun salutations, man.
Yeah, they work.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so that was my one gripe with the episode.
There's,
That's it. That's
there
a
are
great
very
episode.
few holes in this
Yeah.
show, but there's one.
Yeah.
But in that, like, Grace didn't help her because what was the fight that they had when they were up there where Frankie said that she can't even come up with a single wish because they were talking about
Yeah.
the way the first episode started with the eyelash kind of a wish. And this is why I think it's very interesting to put a more mature friendship, so age-wise aside, that they're still fighting with each other in a way that it's like you're learning and meeting people for the first time, which is more of a younger person's issue because this is when you meet new friends, you make new friendships and all this stuff. And the fact that they're really having kind of basic little quarrels like this, but then working through them is just such an interesting turning point in their life. And I think why the show does so well that it's really making universal friendship fights, but like in these two characters that are not what we usually see on TV.
Definitely. And the fact that they're so opposite lends itself to these fights too. You know, it's they obviously are both people, but other than that, they don't have a ton in common.
Right.
So
Pretty much nothing.
Yeah, pretty much nothing. So they're constantly learning from each other, and sometimes learning hurts.
Yeah.
Ow.
Ooh.
So she finds her way out because apparently there's a pocket knife in the Ritz box that she
Yeah.
couldn't have reached.
She's also Spider-Man.
Yeah. With many sun salutations up her sleeve. And she comes back down. Grace is, of course, lounging on the couch with a nice,
martini.
I was going to say, a nice
Martini.
rich martini. I don't know what that means.
I would
There
never
wasn't
describe
any
martini as
cream in
rich.
there.
It's just like, what?
Yeah, but it does look very classy, so maybe that's
Right.
where my brain was going.
Oh, okay.
And they talk, and Grace has her realization that, you know, she realizes that this house was never a home for the two of them and that she needs to find herself. And Frankie's kind of having the same thought process there.
Right.
So they talk, and they decide they're not going to go back to the hospital. Good old Lucy.
Right, which I think was
Gonna do it for them.
was great. I think even though in a moment of such family and necessity of being in a hospital, I know that's usually the moment when everyone rallies behind each other regardless of stuff. It was a good line in the sand that I think they drew.
They've been there for 48 hours. Like, I think they did their service, you know? Like,
They
they're
fulfilled their obligatory duty.
Right.
Like, they made sure the kids were okay. They got him through the surgery. They married them.
Side note.
They did everything. And
And
these guys
more.
really screwed their life plans up. So I think this is a good place to be like, I'm not hauling your stuff for you. Like, you take care of
yeah,
it.
like,
Right.
not your pack mule.
The fact that Saul couldn't even give good directions as to where his things are, and Frankie's just going around like, no, he has
That
the scarf
was-
in the box.
You know, I mean, it was really cute the way that they did that, her knowing such subtle things
Specific.
about him, and it was just so sad for me though. And it's
hard to watch.
She really is struggling right now, but I think the end of the episode and sending Lucy with the stuff, she's gathering strength for the first time, I think, right now in her arc with all this.
I feel like it all comes back to, like, last season we kind of saw that Robert and Grace didn't really have a relationship for probably a large chunk of their marriage.
If ever.
But Grace, but Frankie and Saul really did, and they really did and probably still do love each other and care about each other a lot. So that's what makes it so much harder for Frankie, even so more than Grace. It's not just that Grace is, like, has a hard like exterior shell. It's more that, like, Frankie and Saul, like, actually were in love. And I think that, you know, there's a difference between loving someone and being in love with someone, and I think maybe Saul wasn't in love with Frankie the way she was with him, but he still loved her.
I think he was in love with her as a human being. Like, you ever have that deep friendship with someone where you're like, I love everything about you, you're the best, but obviously I'm not going to sleep with you.
It's interesting to see who they chose as Beards, because Saul definitely went with, like, someone who could be a soulmate, who could, like, he could partner with his children with, who he could, you know, share a home with. Whereas Robert from last season was talking about why he chose Grace, as she looks great coming in a room. She knows how to talk to people. She was going to leverage my career, and we had that in common. The things they wanted, even though they didn't have love, they had a different type of partnership. They had a partnership that was going to put them in, like, a class and a position that they wanted to be in.
A business relationship.
Exactly.
It made me think of Claire and Frank Underwood.
Totally. One other thing I wanted to say was there are a couple of phraseology moments that kept happening in the episode. So Frankie kept saying, I wish I could unlearn all of this. I wish I could unknow this. And then Grace kept saying, it's what one does. So I thought those were two interesting things and maybe themes of what they're going to be going through in their journey to self. So her, Frankie, unknowing all this stuff and learning what her new path is. And then instead of Grace going, it's what one does, what do I want to do? Not what would one do, what do I want to do? What's true for me? So I thought those were two really smart dialogue moments.
I like the can I unlearn this? I think that can apply to anything in life, not just necessarily a relationship, but like you will read something or hear something and wish you could not know it, but your brain just remembers that. Those kind of things stick out, and like every time you see something, it's going to remind you of either that person or that time or that thing. And so
really
I think that a lot, like just like a little mild amnesia, knock yourself in the head and wish you could unlearn all that stuff, but it's never gonna happen.
Some days, man, it'd be nice.
It would be, you know? But that's also what alcohol is for.
Oh, that's right. Where's that wine? It's
seriously,
seems
the
to be
rosé. Chris Harrison, anyone?
Also, we didn't talk about this autocorrect moment.
Oh yeah.
Which
so,
I have mixed feelings about.
We're mixed feelings about this one.
Okay, let's hear your side of the story.
I thought very funny. I love the Bud and Brianna dynamic that they've had from the beginning, because it's he's very much always poking fun at her and she just always stands her ground, so it's a natural kind of brother sister butting head kind of thing. And so when they're getting in this fight and she is starting to via Siri, how I've never done this though. Do people really do this?
I do it like every day.
I voice text, but I don't. Yeah,
I draft an email.
Yeah, I don't usually. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but then you go in and you edit it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you're in the car voice texting, then you say, "Sorry, I'm voice texting." So if it says something weird, that's why.
Right.
Right.
I
do not.
Names.
I just pressed the fake button while I was saying that. Siri.
So she's basically just like, this is taking too long. We can't cancel the wedding and let all like the 80-some guests that are invited, that it's not happening quick enough. So she's gonna draft a mass email to the wedding list, and it's basically very cold. I think she says, to whom it may concern.
Wedding's off.
Wedding's
bye.
off. Bye. And so then Bud grabs the phone and starts to hypothetically draft a new one, which is saying the cold-hearted truth of what's going on, because he's so frustrated with the fact that his parents slept together, even though they're all embarking on this new marriage journey and everything. It's really hard for Bud to grasp and really get a hold of.
As it would be for anyone.
And so he starts drafting the email saying, "Dear beloved guest, Saul fucked Frankie, and Robert had a heart attack because of it, and da-da-da-da-da."
Right, yeah, he goes on this long thing. And then, so when they accidentally send the email, but it turns out that the voice text had all autocorrected. And what we were saying is that I almost kind of wish it didn't autocorrect, because I feel like we would have gotten more plot from that and more, because at the end they kind of touch on it, like who's Vin Diesel, because it autocorrected Frankie slept with Vin Diesel or something.
Right.
But I think I almost wish like there was repercussions that kind of played out more, because that seemed like a moment that was gonna be something that was gonna come up for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just dropped that.
And that could have brought out a lot of truth, because I really feel like sooner rather than later the kids need to talk to their parents, like, so this is messed up.
Right. And Robert still doesn't know, and so maybe I thought that was gonna be how he was gonna find out. I don't know.
I mean, I was relieved because it felt like a lot less awkward to me than if it had gone through, but like, with that awkwardness would have brought up a lot of great plot points. So I can see your point of view.
True.
It was funny.
It was really funny.
I mean, autocorrect is always a funny joke. Like, all of those things made me laugh, because it's funny because when they were saying some of those things, like some of those words, it was like ducking or
Why
something.
does it always change to ducking? In what world are we saying ducking? Is that even a word?
When you're throwing a ball at someone's head, like, oh, she's ducking.
Oh, she's ducking. Okay, but I was thinking
I was
like
thinking of
going
the
out and
animal.
like killing a duck. That's called ducking.
Oh, I was thinking of it being in some trend that I never knew about, like planking, but ducking.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
Like maybe it's a little.
We
Like,
should Urban Dictionary it after the show. Make
God.
sure.
you know. I don't like getting on there. I learn bad things I don't want to know about.
True.
All right, so maybe we won't do that. But do you guys want to make some predictions?
I do.
Yeah.
Can we predict something?
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Zach, do you want to start?
I want to predict. I mean, I'm kind of pulling from just one of my favorite already existing girl friendship, stories. But I want them to have a little Thelma and Louise road trip. I feel like they need to get away and do something that's gonna help them learn to be without all of this other
I love
stuff
that.
around them. So it's a pretty simple, basic prediction, but I think they need to get away.
All right. Thelma and Lou.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking potential love interest for Brianna. Because I know we've seen her kind of like take an individual journey and get this dog and like be an independent woman and not just like sleep with random guys anymore and like try to take some ownership of her life. So I'm kind of thinking like maybe we could get someone who's just like totally different from her.
Well,
Wasn't
is
she
Bud?
with that guy? No?
She was with the guy, but they haven't brought him back up.
And
was
it
the
sounds
dog
like they
walking
kind of
there,
brought
right?
him
No,
in this
she
episode.
was looking fierce in that leather dress because she
Yeah.
was supposed to go on a date.
Right,
with
but then
him?
she didn't.
Yeah.
I think so, but then
Yeah.
she didn't go. I mean, for obvious reasons.
Oh, it's like-
but I feel like my prediction was gonna be like I think Brianna and Bud are gonna hook up this
I know.
season. They were doing some
Wait, no.
hardcore flirting.
Isn't Bud gay?
No,
Bud? Gay? I
A
don't
Buddha gay? A Buddha gay? Isn't gay?
I don't think so.
Really?
No. You think Bud and that way is that the sibling thing that you were talking about earlier?
No, so we established siblings in the first season.
Because
and the
we
other
know
two,
Mallory and Brianna, or
Mallory
Mallory,
and Coyote.
Yeah, we
Mallory and Coyote
incest.
have something happening.
We know
or
that.
have.
Yeah, that they had
did
a
in the
past.
past.
But Brianna and Bud, especially in the hospital, I was really feeling sparks between
No.
them. It might just be hopeful thinking because I love both of those characters and I ship them, but I don't know. I felt it. That's my prediction. As crazy as it
No,
may be.
I think Four Eyes from her work is gonna come back and
Really?
be
No.
a person.
I don't know. I just
think
feel
so,
like
too.
I know
I
when they
like
saw
Four Eyes.
them on the date at the movies. I don't know. I just feel like maybe a relationship, more serious relationship for her, but just I think more from like the kids and their lives and seeing more about them and kind of going through this pregnancy with Mal and kind of like I want to see more about Coyote's journey to his new
sobriety.
Yeah, like
sobriety,
what's
yeah.
next for Coyote?
Yeah,
Like
so,
he
I don't
seems to
know.
be landed in a safe
Maybe
place.
he'll get like a job or something.
That's
like,
what I'm
Right?
hoping.
Small steps, Coyote.
Or get off the bike and get into a car. Like
He always has his
something.
backpack
I
on too.
love
Like
that
where's he
joke,
going?
though.
He's got to carry everything with him. He doesn't
when
know
he
where
has
to
to
sleep
leave
that
every
night.
time Bud leaves because he's like he drove me here.
yeah, it's real.
What about you, Lolo?
I think I have another sibling prediction. I think that Mal and Coyote are going to have, if they don't get together, there's at least going to be fighting the temptation of it. And I mean, this is crazy and a little
I feel like I
telenovela,
know where you're going.
but I think those twins are his.
What?
I thought about that.
Yeah.
What? Oh
He
my
looked
goodness.
so touched when he found out she had twins.
And you know what's something that this show does is sometimes they reveal a truth backwards. Like they do
Yeah.
flashbacks sometimes that are more revealing of what like the
Like they had a drunk night and they hooked up.
Right.
that didn't happen, but that's where my brain went.
Right, or I
the
think,
twins.
or there could be a story of like something like comforting them and learning about all this new stuff with their family, and something happens. But
It'll be interesting if that does happen because the drama's been so focused around like Grace and Frankie and Saul and Robert that it would be interesting if like other family members, because the Mal and Coyote was like a touch of drama last season, but the real
Right.
meat of the story really isn't about them. So it'll be fun if they do that and pull them. Because that will be another like family explosion moment, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it'll be fun. I don't
I
know.
love this big family.
is that like technically incest though now?
No.
As long as they're not
There's-
related by
No,
blood.
no, I know, but I'm
There's
just trying to
another
think of like
on one of the other shows I do for AfterBuzz, we have this conversation all the time, and they're step siblings, and they have such vibes, and I just can't with that. Like, there is nothing okay with that. But I mean, I know like legally and
But if you
physically
grew
it's
up
fine.
together, well, they did grow up
See,
together.
that
though,
is
right?
so
the
weird.
difference is that they grew up as like neighbors, as like friends of friends. Which, if the couples had stayed
Oh,
as
God.
they were, it would
I
have been
can't.
totally reasonable.
I still
Well,
and
can't.
it would have
true.
been cute. They'd be like, our like offspring are going to join together and make a family official. But the dads kind of already
Well,
did that. I think it's
I mean,
a mess. I think it's
there's
not the smart decision.
There's
to make.
already a weird like Eskimo family thing happening with the adults anyway. So
What's an Eskimo family?
Like
Eskimo
when your
sisters.
Eskimo sisters or Eskimo brothers.
You have to huddle together for
No.
warmth?
Yeah, inside of
Sexual
another
way.
person.
Weird way.
It's like if you've slept with the same person, you're Eskimo sisters.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
I'm learning. I
This
don't
is
need
an
an
Urban
Urban Dictionary. I have a panel.
This episode is now brought to you by
You guys, I think we're ready to wrap it
Yeah.
up. We feel good. We're gonna
we did
wrap
it.
it up
right
Oh.
there. Good place to end.
I'm gonna go hide in an igloo.
Where can the people of the world find you on the internet? And other
If you
places.
really want to after this. At Zach Kelch on Instagram and Twitter.
Send him all of the Urban Dictionary quotes.
Yeah.
So read them to us
Would
next
love it.
week in order.
And everyone can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dani Golub.
You can find me at Joelle Monique everywhere the internet is sold.
Awesome. And you can find me at Lauren Lograsso on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm playing a show next week at, where's the place? Oh, the Holiday Inn in Burbank. So check that out at 8:30. And then I'm playing one on Friday, May 20th at Bar 20 on Sunset Boulevard. So let's be friends. And be sure to tune in to us next week,
Yep.
6
Yes.
p.m., same place, AfterBuzz TV. We'll be breaking down episodes 3 and 4. Let's be friends, guys. Let's do this.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.